What is up everybody, it is me DevilNeverCry, and as promised, I'm back with some DMC5 content. Now today, we're going to be going over the King Cerberus Devil Arm. As always, if you want to make sure to stay up to date on all things DMC, subscribe to the channel. With that said and done though, let's dive right into this weapon. So, King Cerberus is a clear upgrade over the Cerberus that we had in DMC3, this time boasting 3 elements for you to play with. The first, of course, is going to be the Ice Elemental. It's the one we're most familiar with, it's the one we played with in DMC3, and it's the moveset that doesn't require you to switch about into the Swordmaster style, or it doesn't require you to hold and charge any buttons. The entire Ice moveset is simply mapped to the standard melee attack inputs, starting with the Cerberus COMBOA. This is a very similar combo. In fact, I mean, it's almost move for move similar to the one we got in DMC3. I believe it's 4 melee attack inputs, and Dante will let loose with the Ice Elemental Nunchucks. Moving on to Cerberus COMBOB, if you tap the melee button twice, have a brief pause and then tap it twice more, Dante will go into the Cerberus COMBOB, which again we've seen before in DMC3, where he'll finish off the combo with a sort of insane satellite spinning move with the weapon on his wrist. Both of these combos are quick, simple, they don't have a lot of range and they don't do a lot of damage, but they get the job done. Moving on to the mid-air attack, Swing. If you hop in the air and tap the melee button, Dante will do one simple swing. You'll slice an enemy, again, very short range, doesn't do the most damage, but it is quite fast. Of course, this is jump cancelable, as are most of King Cerberus's moves. But then we move on to a fan favorite move, the Revolver. This is done by pressing and holding the lock on, moving the left stick forward, and then tapping the melee button. Dante goes into an intense and violent spin, which culminates with him crashing to the floor. Again, this move has a decent amount of range. It does a moderate amount of damage in fact, and you can jump cancel out of it quite easily, considering the move's forward momentum brings you ever closer to the enemy. Those of you who remember DMC3 will remember this move quite fondly. And let's not forget the fact that you can pull off the Revolver move in mid-air. There is little difference between Revolver 1 and Revolver 2, with the upgrade providing a longer, more intense spin, allowing you to pull off more damage. Moving on from Revolver though, we then come on to Crystal. This move is done by pressing and holding the lock on, moving the left stick back, and then pressing the melee button. Dante will essentially slam the King Cerberus weapon into the ground, causing a few spikes of ice to jut forth from the ground in the direction of the enemy, culminating in the enemy being launched. This move is perfect for setting enemies up, essentially for launching them. You can easily go into a Crystal and then jump into a mid-air Revolver for a nice chunk of damage. But again, this is a move that you should remember if you've played DMC3. But last but not least, in the Ice Elemental category for King Cerberus, we have the Ice Age move. This is a personal favourite of mine. Again, this is something that comes back from DMC3, but I like this move so much, which by the way is performed by pressing and holding the lock on, moving the left stick back to forwards and then tapping the triangle. With the longer you tap that triangle button, the longer the move goes on. The reason I like this move so much is because it provides a 360-degree defensive wall essentially. No matter what enemy comes to attack you, it will be parried so long as the move is still active. And let's not forget that if performed near an enemy, they will of course be damaged by this move, so it's used not just for parrying but for damaging enemies. And that's a wrap on the Ice Elemental stage of King Cerberus. But of course, DMC5 has iterated on an old weapon and brought us some new toys to play with. So let's move on to the Lightning Elemental. King Cerberus's Lightning Element is all about charging. That means you have to press and hold either the Style button or the Melee button. But let's dive right into just what you have at your disposal. By pressing and holding either the Melee or Style button, you'll know when a move is ready to release when you begin to see lightning crackle around King Cerberus. Starting with the standard press and hold melee, once you let go you'll perform the long barrel move. This essentially allows Dante to take advantage of King Cerberus's full reach, where he'll use the weapon to snipe an enemy far, far away. Now, as mentioned, this move has a large amount of range. You can hit enemies who are halfway across the room, and it does moderate damage. The hitbox is also large and generous enough, where sometimes when a move looks like it shouldn't hit, it will. Again, the same move applies in midair. By simply pressing and holding the melee button, Dante will do the same move just in mid-air. And one thing that I should mention now is the fact that all of the Lightning Elemental moves, the charge moves, can be buffered whilst doing another input. For example, if you do a standard revolver and instead of just tapping the melee button, you press and hold it, once that animation is done, you can let go and Dante will immediately follow up with the long barrel move. Again, this applies for all of the charge and hold moves, so it's up to you to mess around and see what sort of moves you can combo together. It's one of the ingenious things that Capcom has done to allow you to tap into this lightning element without having to wait for a move to charge. But getting back to the lightning element's moveset, we have the long revolver. Again, this is performed both in air and mid-air with the same input, which is press and hold lock on, move the left stick forward whilst holding the melee button, and as long as you let go of the melee button whilst you're performing these other inputs, Dante will go into a similar revolver move, albeit the animation is largely different. The move has a larger reach, and it does a moderate amount of damage. Again, this moveset doesn't seem to launch you in midair like the standard revolver did, so it's a bit trickier to jump cancel, but provided you've got the timing correct, you can jump cancel out of it. Next up, we have the Thunderclap move. Similar input to the long revolver. By pressing and holding the melee button, the lock-on button, and having the left stick tilted back instead of forward, Dante will let loose with a barrage of electrical orbs that will actually slowly chase down the target. Now this is interesting because it can do passive damage whilst you're off doing other moves. They are very comboable if you want to keep enemies up in the air as well. This move is great for doing that. Think of it as a very slow moving round trip if you must. Next up in the Lightning Element's arsenal, we move on to some Swordmaster moves. Once in Swordmaster, if you hold the Style button and then let go, Dante will pull off the Revolution move. Simply put, Dante will let loose with King Cerberus in its lightning element, flailing around with sparks shooting everywhere, throwing enemies back with the impact. Again, this can be used in mid-air with the move being called Turbulence instead. Again, these moves can be buffered whilst doing other inputs, so do be sure to take advantage of that. One thing I like about this move so much is the fact that it has a large amount of range all the way around Dante, so any enemies in the vicinity will easily get caught in this attack. However, it doesn't do the most damage, so do be wary of that. Up next is the Regicide move. Similar input to the long revolver. If you press and hold the Style button, hold the lock on and move the left stick forward whilst you release the style button, Dante will go on to this lengthy combo where he lets loose with King Cerberus in an array of flashy moves before finishing it off by striking the ground and sending enemies flying. Again, this is a lengthy animation. It does have a wide hitbox, so enemies in the vicinity will get hit. Just be careful though, because you can easily be knocked out of it. You're not invulnerable. Moving on to the percussion move, which is the last of the lightning elemental moves. By locking on, moving the left stick back, and pressing and holding the style button, Dante will slam King Cerberus into the ground and jut forth a bunch of lightning pillars. Now, the subsequent upgrade, Percussion 2, just means that more pillars of lightning will shoot up. The move has a decently sized hitbox, with larger enemies being able to be hit by more than one pillar, doing a nice chunk of damage. The move is fast enough where you don't have to worry about animation times, but the damage isn't the best if only one pillar hits. And that is a wrap for the lightning element. Do stick in there, folks. We are now on to the final element, and that is of course the fire elemental. This moveset is solely tapped into via the use of the Swordmaster style. In this style, Dante will transform Cerberus into a fiery bowstaff, which allows him to let loose with a flurry of attacks, kicking it off with Cerberus Combo C. By tapping the style button 3 times, Dante will go into this short but simple Cerberus combo, which culminates in him slamming the staff vertically. Moving on to Cerberus Combo D, this is a pause combo, a lot longer, very flashy. Dante uses the bowstaff as if he was playing snooker or pool at times. Just do be careful that you can be knocked out of this if you're not paying attention, because it is a long animation as said. To perform the Cerberus Combo D, it's simply tap the style button twice, followed by a brief pause, followed by 2 more taps of the style button. Moving on from that, if you press the style button mid-air, you'll enact the roleplay move. By doing so, Dante will transform the bowstaff into a dancing or stripper pole, if you must, which is very reminiscent of his DMC3 animation back when you go into the strip club, I believe in Mission 3. So it's a nice throwback to that, but the attack again culminates in one forward-facing swoop that will throw enemies back. But don't be afraid to chase them with the rock back move. This is a distance closing move if you must. It doesn't do a lot of damage, but it does close distance, and it is of course performed by pressing the lock on, tilting the left stick forward and tapping the B button. Dante will plant the bowstaff into the ground before delivering a fiery kick in a demon's face. And last but not least, we have the hot stuff move, which is performed by pressing the lock on, moving the left stick back and tapping the style button. Dante will go into a fiery twirl where he'll let loose with one final strike that sends the enemies flying. The twirly move does not do a lot of damage, but the final strike that sends enemies flying back actually does a decent chunk. Just be wary though that the animation can be quite long and you can easily be knocked out of it, so do be sure to use it if you're absolutely sure that you can get away with the final hit. And that is going to be a wrap for King Cerberus and the moves that it holds. I tried to keep things clear and concise, but man, this Devil Arm has so many moves. It's essentially 3 Devil Arms in one, which is why you should definitely be out there using this weapon. Do be sure to go into the Void mode and try certain things out. The weapon really does allow for creative play. You can jump cancel, you can launch enemies, you can buffer inputs, so it's all about getting in there and testing things out. But with all that said and done, it has been me, DevilNeverCry. I would like to thank all of you for watching, and as always, I'll see you next video.